Shabbos, good 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 Shabbos. Good Shabbos, 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 good Shabbos. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Hailechun eraneno ela Hashem Hanetzon Yishenu Hanekat Mofonam Kesaido I been midais I know the Elohim Hayaboim Shona Akot Bedai I am tired I yado derochai Yahashem Kanezati ve'api Kim yevavavayom El menuchasi Shido Lashem Shir Chodesh Shir Lashem Ben Kolodeh Shido Lashem Baruch Shmai Asmayim Leyim Yeshua שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים בארץ, אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל, השם שומרך, השם צילך, על יד ימינך, יומם השמש לא יכה קר, וירח בלילה, השם ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, השם ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם השם, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל ייתן למות רגליך, אל ינום שומרך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומרי.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. This is Hakham Melech Ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and I am broadcasting to you today from the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, Israel. Yes, I'm back in the land of Israel, and I am here to stay. At least that is the plan. So the last time I was here, I visited in 2019, and I was planning to come back then, but things got a little bit sidetracked, and I ended up in Portugal. for 4 years. Some of my close friends know that. And I spent actually the years 2020, March 2020 until, well, about, let's see, arrived in about 4 days ago. I spent in Portugal, in a region of Portugal called Alentejo. That's halfway between, everyone's heard of Lisbon, of course. So kind of halfway between Lisbon and the southern coast of Portugal, which is known as the Algarve. Many people have heard of the Algarve because it's a very popular vacation spot, especially for Europeans, and especially for Brits, who are really kind of really annoying when they go there. I don't understand why the Brits come to Portugal at all. All they do is they just take whatever they're doing back in England and they just do it in Portugal, which basically means getting drunk on beer and sitting and watching soccer games and sports bars. Oh well, go figure that one out. That's a mystery to be uncovered at another time. Any rate, I spent the last 4 years in Portugal. How I ended up there is a long story. But Portugal is a very nice, it's a beautiful country. The people tend to be very helpful and friendly. It's quiet. It's extremely inexpensive to live there. And I had overall a positive experience there. And but it was time, of course, to come back to the land of Israel. And now I'm back. And the plan is to stay. That is for sure. And I'm hoping that things are going to work out. This is what I kind of call my third aliyah to Israel. The first aliyah I made in 1993. In fact, I remember the exact date, June 23rd, 1993. And I stayed pretty much straight through until November 2006. So I was here pretty much 13 years straight. I did take a couple of short visits back to the United States, but basically I was here almost the whole time. And then in 2006, for reasons that are too long and I don't know about boring, but too long to get into right now, I decided it was time to leave and go back to the United States for a while. And then I stayed there for about, let's see, that was 2006. So I think I came back to Israel in about 2010 or something like that. And I stayed for about a year and a half, if I remember correctly. And then I went back to the United States again. And I stayed there until 2020 in New York, where I grew up, in the area where I grew up. And then in 2020, as I mentioned, when the pandemic started in the United States, I was in New York City at the time, or the New York City area, in New York City, technically. And I did not feel safe there. I felt like society was on the verge of collapse. Everybody laughed at me and everybody said I was crazy. And in retrospect, maybe I was a little bit crazy because the United States still is there, kind of. But in retrospect, it wasn't such a crazy assessment because a lot of crazy things did happen during the pandemic, such as the BLM riots and the looting and the whole thing. And the United States will collapse. There's no doubt about that. It hasn't yet, but it will. It has to. Maybe if Trump gets in, then maybe he could save it. Or if someone like Trump gets in, maybe he could save it. But if not, and I don't think he will get in for various reasons that I've gone through before and I won't go through again. I basically think that he doesn't have a chance of getting in. I hope I'm wrong. He has a chance, but I don't think he has a very good chance. I think the demographics of the country have changed so much that they just will not allow for someone like Donald Trump to be elected. And then you filter in all the rest of these stuff. We know we're not going to get into American politics, but I don't think he has a very good chance of winning, even though I think he's the more popular president, let's put it that way, or more popular candidate. But I don't want to get sidetracked on American politics. And so then I ended up in Portugal for 4 years in the middle of nowhere, which I loved. I had a car, so when we wanted to go to the middle of somewhere, we just hopped in the car and went to the middle of somewhere. But which basically usually meant the most common destination were, well, on the southern coast of Portugal, there are a number of, I don't know if I'd really call them cities. I guess technically they're cities, but they're very small cities, maybe 50,000 people, 100,000 people. So there's one called Faro, which is about maybe 50 miles from, even less, 70 kilometers, maybe 40, 50 miles from the Spanish border on the southern coast of Portugal. Then there's another one called Albufeira, which is kind of more towards the center of the coast. So those were the two main destinations when we wanted to get out of the middle of nowhere and go to the middle of kind of somewhere. At any rate, I spent 4 years in Portugal, and every moment that I was there, I just really thought about how and when I would come back to the land of Israel. And I knew when I left the United States in 2020 that Portugal was kind of a stopover. It was meant to be a place that I was going to stop over on my way to Israel. I didn't know that I would get stuck there, although it was a very pleasant experience. I didn't know I'd get stuck there for about 4 years. But yeah, it ended up being about 4 years, and there was a lot of pressure on me from various sides to go back to the United States, actually. But I resisted all the pressure, and I ended up here in the land of Israel. So here I am in the land of Israel. I don't know if you can see out the window. Well, let's see if you can. Hold on. No, you won't be able to because of this background. I guess I can take off the background. Forget it. But I'm at the top of Mount hotel at the top of the Mount of Olives, and out my window, I'm looking south towards the area of Bethlehem and Hebron, and I could see the Herodian from here, straight out my window, maybe about 10 miles south of here, I would imagine. And the Herodian, if I don't know if Bruce Brill is here right now, I don't think he is because he usually comes in on the StreamYard. But he ran the Herodian. He was like the general manager of the Herodian for about, I think, a year and a half or something like that, back in the 1980s. So, and he lives not too far away from it. I was at Bruce Brill's house last evening, and yeah, so that's it. Here I am, and if I look out, not from my window, but if I go to out the door here of the building and look straight ahead. And by the way, this is not where I'm going to be living permanently. This is just temporary. But then I look straight down the Mount of Olives onto the east side. You could see the entire Temple Mount. You could see all of Jerusalem, all of the Temple Mount, all of the old city, and an amazing panoramic view of Jerusalem from the front of the building. And you could have a clear view of the Temple Mount. I mean, you could see the outline of the walls of the retaining wall of the Temple Mount, which then merges into the wall of Jerusalem that was built mostly by the Turks in the 1500s. They rebuilt the walls of Jerusalem, and this is a beautiful, beautiful panoramic here. So I will be here for a little while I'm working out my next steps. So here we are, back in the land of Israel, and I would like to give my feelings. Yes, that is Rosh Nikra. Absolutely correct. That's right, Ariella or Ben, since you guys are calling yourself Ari Ben. I don't know if it's Ari or Ben, but yes, that is correct. That's Rosh Nikra. That was taken in 2019. So what did it feel to be like back in the land of Israel? It feels very peaceful, and it feels very natural, and it feels very good. And I feel that I hope that this time around it's going to be different from previous times around, in the sense that, what do they say in Buddhism or in Zen? I hate when people say, "Oh, Buddhism says," but I don't know who really said it. So I'll just say Buddhism says that you can never swim in the same river twice, because each time you go swimming, you're different and the river is different. Well, that's what I feel like being back in the land of Israel. I feel like I'm different. I'm more mature. I'm older. I'm a little bit more, a lot more knowledgeable of who I am and who I'm not, and what I need to accomplish in life, and what I do not need to accomplish in life. And I think the land of Israel has changed as well. I think people, especially after October 7th, I feel they're a little bit more nicer than I remember them being in the past. Israelis, they definitely have a rough side, but they really are very, very nice, friendly, helpful people. I either say they'll either spit in your face, or they will open their house and you'll become like part of the family, one or the other. It's extremes, but I found everyone so far to be very nice and friendly and helpful, more so than I remember it in the past, where I felt like people were a lot more at each other's throats in the past. I haven't really felt that so far. A little bit of that, but I really haven't felt that so far. But maybe then I still have maybe a little bit of rose colored glasses on. We shall see as time goes by. One thing that I definitely noticed is, well, in Portugal, everything is very relaxed. Everything is very slow. I mean, like, very slow. God forbid you should ever have to deal with the bureaucracy in Portugal. Oh my God, you better just buckle in for a long ride, because it's going to be slow and painful. But the atmosphere there is very slow, very relaxed, very mellow. And here everyone's very intense. The first thing I noticed when I was coming from Ben Gurion Airport, is that everyone on the highways honk. They honk at you. They come up right behind you. They cut you off. They they're very aggressive on the road. And of course, I knew this in the past, but I'd forgotten because I'd been in a place where where it's not like that. In Portugal, nobody honks, and they can be a little bit of aggressive. Anyone who's ever lived in Portugal knows that the Portuguese, when they want to pass you, they'll come up right behind you and they'll start flashing the lights. They'll be like 2 inches behind you. You could be going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, but they'll be right behind you. But other than that, they're very very mellow on the road. You won't hear anybody honking or anything like that. And here, all I heard was honks and getting cut off, and people going fast, and people kind of trying to squeeze by each other, and people with no. That is not a good aspect of Israeli society. And I really, I thought about it coming from a place like Portugal, which is so relaxed and so mellow. Does it really? I mean, why? Why do these people? Why do the people here act like this? What does it accomplish? You're going to get from point A to point B pretty much in the same amount of time, whether you yell and scream and shout and get all upset and honk your horn like a lunatic, than if you just relax and chill and enjoy the ride. It doesn't really accomplish anything. All it does is just it wastes energy and expends energy on something that for which that energy can be saved and used on much better things than yelling and screaming and getting nervous and honking and all this kind of stuff. So I don't like that attitude, and I made a conscious decision that maybe in the past, I would have eventually kind of gotten into those energies, that attitude, just being part of the society. But I think I'm an independent enough person at this point in my life that I absolutely refuse to do that. I'm not going to get into this Israeli mentality. I don't care. They can yell at me. They can scream at me. They can shout at me. They can cut me off. They can honk. I just refuse. I'm going to bring those good things that I learned or that I saw in a nice, relaxed, mellow place like Portugal, and I'm going to bring it to the land of Israel. And I'm really going to stick to those kinds of relaxed, mellow energy, because I really think that's what I need at this point in my life. And I think also that's really what the nation needs. The nation needs just to take a chill pill and relax. So that is something that I've noticed. But other than that, how does it feel to be back? It feels really great, and it feels really natural. It feels like I'm in the place where I belong. It feels like I can think straight again, because when you're outside of the land of Israel, there's a certain haze, there's a certain fog that you experience, especially when it comes to things like Torah and God and all of these, loftier kind of thoughts, that it just clears up when you come to the land of Israel. So I feel very at one and in tune with the land, and I'm very happy at this point to be back here. So we'll see how it goes. So what are the plans here? So my plans are, first and foremost, to set up a decent life for myself, economically, personally, all of this kind of stuff. It's kind of like the old thing they say that if the plane is going down and the oxygen masks drop, you put the oxygen on yourself before you put it on anyone else. And I feel like if I don't have a decent kind of normal life set up in this place, then I will not be able to accomplish any of my goals in this place. And so that's the first and foremost, things up as a normal life. Okay, what does that mean? That means to have like a normal good place to live, a house, a decent car. It doesn't have to be a Rolls Royce, but a decent car. All of these things that an average person would like in their lives, which has not always been the case in the past. I've been so gung ho in the past about Israel, and I guess mesmerized by the place that I kind of put aside my material needs for more spiritual, loftier, more spiritual needs. And actually, in the end, that ended up not serving anybody. It didn't serve me, and it didn't serve anything that I was trying to accomplish. So I mean, I'll say it even to the degree that if I cannot set up a normal economic life here, I don't have to be rich, but just a normal, decent economic life here, then I'm not going to stay here. I'm seriously, I'm not going to live. I'm not going to live like I see some people living in this place, and I won't mention any names, but living like I don't know, looks like they crawled out of some post World War III, science fiction movie. I've never seen anything like it. So that's important to me. Thank God my career is high tech, which is very big here in Israel. So perhaps I will try to find a job at least part-time. I'll continue to work on some of I have clients back in the United States. I'll continue to do work for them, and I will continue to explore, economic slash business slash work opportunities. I have a friend that we are planning to kind of like support each other in terms of like economic and business development. He's also trying to improve his situation here economically in Israel. So hopefully we're going to work together on that and support each other and maybe open a business or two or something like that. But we'll see. But that is actually a top priority for me. It's not meant to be materialistic. It's meant to be very practical because I feel like, again, if I don't have a decent, normal life in this place, then I'm not going to be able to help anybody. If I can't feel that I can help myself and have a normal life, then I don't think I'll be able to help anyone with my loftier goals. My connection is having issues. I can't do anything about it. It's my Wi-Fi. I'm here in a place where I don't control the Wi-Fi. So there's these guys back on. Okay, there's Ari and Ben back on. Wait 1 second. So there's absolutely nothing that I could do with it. It might come on and it might come off, and there's really nothing I could do about it. So that being said, so that's my first goal. Again, with the mentality of trying to, of that idea of when the oxygen masks drop, then when the plane is going down, first you give yourself oxygen before you give the child next to you oxygen. If you don't have your own act together, then you're not going to be able to help anybody. You're useless towards anyone and everyone else. So that's that. And then, of course, the second goal is then to spend as much time as possible on some of these, more loftier goals. And I really want to try to ligabesh. How would you say this in English? To kind of bring together, to kind of crystallize the Karaite community, or shall I say, the non-Egyptian, called the World Alliance of Qara'im community and communities. I'd like to set up at least one main community where, build it and they will come, where everybody knows that they're Karaite leaning and they're not part of the Egyptian Karaite world, and that they can come and they can live within the proximity of this community, maybe in the Jerusalem area, because that's the center of everything. And we can have a community, an actual community where we can have meals together, we can have Torah studies together, we can have friendships together, fellowship, all of these kinds of things. And then I would like to set up also some satellite communities around the country, where if people don't live in the Jerusalem area or don't want to live in the Jerusalem area because it is extremely expensive, I'll get to that in a second, then they can perhaps join one of these satellite communities, maybe up in the Golan Heights. We have a couple of Karaites up in the Golan Heights, maybe set one up there and around the country. And start small and we'll go at at a steady pace, a slow pace. But that's really what I want to do. One of the things I've learned about having an online internet community is that's very nice. It's all fine and dandy, but I don't have to tell anybody that there's something lacking with an online internet community. People need to be face to face with each other. People need to be in proximity with each other. They need to have a community. They need to have the feeling of community. And I know, because I've heard it from so many different Karaites, that one of the things that they really lack in their lives is community. They're either stuck going to the local Orthodox synagogue, or they're stuck going to the Reform synagogue, or they're just left out in the cold completely because they don't fit in with any of these other communities, or they have to try to pretend to fit in with these communities and they have to kind of hide what they really believe. And I don't think that is healthy for anybody. I don't think it's healthy, certainly for us as Karaites, and I think our community is growing and will continue to grow. One of the reasons that I'm so happy that I'm here back in Israel right now is because I think Karaism it's really on the verge of taking off. I really believe this. I think people are so fed up with Orthodox Judaism. I think even a lot of the Orthodox themselves are fed up with Orthodox Judaism. But I think people around Israel are so fed up with Orthodox Judaism, and I think they're looking for an alternative. And that alternative that they're looking for is certainly not Reform Judaism or conservative Judaism or anything like that, which are just basically watered down forms of rabbinical Judaism. I think they're looking for something more authentic and more real. And I really think Karaism is on the verge of just skyrocketing, of just exploding. And so I hope that that's the case, and I hope that if we set up, or when we set up these communities, go back, that we can really maybe help push the nation of Israel to the to the next step that it needs to be pushed. Because October 7th, I don't have to tell anybody, certainly not anybody who lives in Israel, but even people who live outside of Israel, October 7th was a watershed moment for the Jewish people, for the people of Israel. Just as 9/11 was a watershed moment for Americans, so October 7th was a watershed moment for Israelis and for Jews around the world. I don't have to tell you all the anti-Semitism that is now emerging all over the world in countries that we thought were safe. I don't know if I'd use the word happy. I don't know, I guess there's a certain vindication or satisfaction in saying that I've been saying for decades, that the United States is going to become very unfriendly towards Jews, and it's time for Jews to get out. And everybody again laughed at me, mocked me, thought I was out of my mind, and now they're not laughing so hard anymore. It's on the rise around the world. You see everything that's in Israel, outside of Israel, and it's like I said, I think October 7th was really a turning point in modern Jewish history, and I think that turning point is a signal that people are looking for something completely different, that the old systems are not working, the old modes of thinking are not working, the old paradigms are not working, and that they are looking for something new. And I know that what they're not looking for is Orthodox Judaism, and I also know that what they're not looking for, although maybe on the left they think they're looking for it, is liberal, American style or Western European style democracy. So we shall see. Build it and they shall come. So that is the plan. So that's it in a nutshell. That is those are my thoughts. Oh, and I forgot to mention the one other thing that I've been complaining and bitching about to every single person I can since I've gotten here is the prices in Israel. I'm just shocked. I'm more than shocked. I'm furious, and I'm absolutely insulted that I can be charged the amount that people are attempting to charge me for things like a falafel or a piece of cheesecake. Okay, I was with a couple of friends the other day, and we sat down in a hotel lobby. I used to sit down in hotel lobbies in Israel all the time. I did a lot of work from there, and I would usually just get a piece of cake and a cup of coffee or something like that. It cost some reasonable amount, like $7, $8. Okay, I kid you not. I sat down in a hotel lobby here in Jerusalem. I will even tell you the name of the hotel. It's the David Citadel Hotel. Okay, which it's kind of a pricey hotel, but their lobby was always very reasonable. And I look at the menu, and I just couldn't believe it. I wanted to get the cheesecake. A piece of cheesecake was 68 shekels. 68 effing shekels for a piece of cheesecake. Let me translate that into dollars for you. Okay, hold on a second. Let's go to Google for a second. 68 NIS in USD. Okay. Okay. I'm almost embarrassed to say it. Hold on. Where'd it go? Oops. In USD, $18.13. $18.13 for an effing piece of cheesecake. And the coffee was 25 shekels. Okay, it was a cappuccino for a cup of cappuccino for 25 shekels. Let's translate that. Okay, NIS, $6.66 for a cup of cappuccino. Okay, so if you want your what was it again? The 68 NIS. So it's $6.66, 68 NIS plus 18, 20, $25 for a piece of cheesecake and a cup of cappuccino. Okay. Yeah, 666. You got it, man. You got it. You got it, man. It's even money per se. That's insulting. That is offensive for anyone to charge that much money, $18 for a piece of cheesecake. By contrast, okay, I used to complain. I used to go to a place back in the United States, which was a very nice bakery in the neighborhood where I lived called Martha's Bakery. And they used to charge about $7.50 for a piece of cake. And I would complain about that. And they would charge about $2.50 or maybe $3 for a cup of coffee. And I would complain about that because after tax and tip and everything, that comes out to maybe $15. Okay. But this is ridiculous. This is $25 for a cup of coffee and a piece of cheesecake. Okay. By contrast, back in Portugal, if I want to sit down and I want to have a piece of cake and coffee, you know how much it costs? I kid you not, €3. The cake will cost about €2, and the coffee will cost about €1. €3, $3. That's how much it costs. And here they want to charge $25 for what? Some crappy piece of cheesecake. At any rate, everywhere I go, the prices are unbelievable. I'm just shocked. They're more expensive even than I made a mistake in a parking lot in the center of Jerusalem the other day. Again, when I was with these friends. I said, how much going to be? I didn't even really look at the prices. What's it going to come out to? 25 shekels, 50 shekels. We were there for about, I think, 5 hours. I came back. The bill was 110 shekels. What is 110 shekels? Hold on a second. 110 NIS to USD, $30. Okay. Those are New York parking prices. That's the price you would pay more or less if you parked for about 5 hours. I'll maybe pay a little bit more in New York City. Okay. 15 checks here in the Golan for cappuccino. I know that's the average price. I've seen that as well. So 5 hours painter was ridiculous. Okay. And finally, by the way, I did get the cheesecake, but not that place. I went to another place called Rimon Cafe, and it was a discount. It was a great price. It was only 43 shekels for a piece of cheesecake. Let's see what that is. 43 NIS to USD. That is $11.46. So $11.46 I paid for a piece of cheesecake. Okay. And I consider that to be a good price. I consider that to be a discount. It's insane. It's insane. The prices have literally doubled. I remember coming to Israel in 1993. And if you wanted a whole falafel, it cost about 5 shekels. I'm now seeing falafel prices of anywhere between 20 and 25 shekels. And that's doubled from when I was here in 2019, where it was about maybe 10 to 15 shekels. Okay. I don't think this is sustainable. I really don't think this is sustainable. Israelis do not make a lot of money. And the minimum wage here, I think, is 38 shekels an hour, which is about $10. And so that means if you to this hotel and you want to buy and you make minimum wage, then you are going to be paying, was it again 68 plus another 25, like 100? You're going to be paying about 2 hours of your wages to eat a flipping piece of cheesecake and a cappuccino. Okay, that is not sustainable. Okay, I don't think is really able to put up with this for longer. Okay, there's either going to be some kind of revolt or some kind of revolution, or the place is going to economically collapse because Israelis just cannot put up with this. That's just way too much. Okay, so anyway, that was something that was absolutely shocking to me. As I said, where I came from, everything in Portugal was dirt cheap, more than New York, Mariana. Marianne. It's more than New York. Things are more expensive here than they are in Manhattan. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. And Israelis do not make the same salaries as people living in Manhattan do. More expensive. Rents maybe are a bit cheaper, okay? But day-to-day items, and certainly anything like a car or eating in a restaurant or anything like clothes, are more expensive than Manhattan. More expensive than Manhattan. Really, it's shocking. I was absolutely shocked by the prices that I saw here. Not shocked, offended, insulted that they would have the nerve to charge these prices. Like, we get the nerve to charge 68 shekels for a piece of cheesecake. You really got to have balls to do something like that. You really have to have balls to do something like that. I wouldn't even have the nerve. I'd be embarrassed to look at myself in the mirror if I charged $18 for a piece of cheesecake, unless it was, gold-plated cheesecake or something like that. Okay? Anywho, that's the story. So we'll see what happens. I'm back, and I hope to stay. The plan is to stay, and with the help of Yahweh, he will show me the way. One of the things I saw over the past couple of months is, without getting into details, I really saw Yahweh take me by the hand and lead me through a process to get me from where I was to where I was now. And there were so many different miracles along the way, if you can use the word miracles, or so many different doors that miraculously opened. I'll just tell you maybe one or two stories. We were on the way to the airport in Lisbon, and I am like super careful with various things. And one of the things I'm always super careful with is, before I lock the door to my car, I always make sure that I have the key in my pocket or in my bag. In fact, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just even leave the window open when I close all the doors before I check to make sure where the key is. and then I'll close the window, and then I'll lock the door just in case. I always have this fear. I won't say fear, but I always have this. I'm very careful not to leave the keys in the car. So we're driving from hello Aiden L'Orange. We're driving. I was just talking about the 68 shekel piece of cheesecake at the David Citadel Hotel and the 25 shekel cappuccino. Okay. So anywho, oh, Aiden L'Orange, you're not Eric. You're okay. You're the other. Okay, I got it. I always forget everyone's pseudonyms. Right. Got it. Okay. I don't know who you are. I won't blow your cover in Mr. L'Orange. So at any rate, yeah. So I'm really careful about that one issue of never locking, making sure that my car keys never get locked in the car. And we're on the way to the airport in Lisbon. The flight is at 7:30 p.m. This was on Tuesday, June 4th. I've got all the suitcases packed up. I've got my 2 cats who I brought to Israel with me packed up. They're in the car, and we stop off for a brief snack, and I go back to the car, and I throw down the back, like the hatchback, and as soon as I did it, I knew I'd made a mistake. I knew what I did. The keys were in my bag, which was in the back of the car, and I knew immediately that car that was not going to open. So here I am. Luckily, with a lot of time for the flight, but for the first time I think ever in my life, if not many years, I locked my keys in the car. And to make a long story short, and with 2 cats, and it was about 95 degrees outside, with 2 cats in the back seat, and I thought I was going to have to break the window. I won't go into the whole story, but there happened to be a mechanic nearby. They called the mechanic. I had to wait about about a half an hour or so, maybe a little bit more. The mechanic came and he did everything. I didn't think he was going to get in the end, but they have this little whatchamacallit, this little bladder that they blow up, and then they stick things in the door and whatever, the whole thing. And he was able to get the door open, and we were able to go on our way. But there were all kinds of little things that happened, which you wouldn't believe, that could have sidetracked my entire trip to Israel. And miraculously, each one was solved, or each door opened up just as it needed to be. So, any rate, I'm cracking up and lagging a little. There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. I'm not on on my Wi-Fi. Nothing I can do about it. If the Wi-Fi is bad, unfortunately, it's bad. Anyway, so yeah, sounds robotic sometimes. There's nothing I can do about it. The only thing I can do maybe is turn off the camera. But we're gonna go into our Torah study at any rate. So to sum up, here I am. Hello, Harlan. So to sum up, here I am. I'll give one more story. Okay. The most difficult part of moving from Portugal to Israel was taking the 2 cats. Okay. I mean, it is unbelievable what I had to go through. If I had dressed the cats up as little babies and taken them on the plane, it would have been about 10 times easier than what I had to go through to take cats. It is to take a pet from one country to another country. They don't consider it a passenger like a human being. You're basically now in the business of exporting and importing animals from one country to another country, and you have to have all kinds of forms filled out. You have to coordinate between two different countries, okay, 2 different dysfunctional countries, Portugal and Israel in this case. I mean, the things I had to go through. I spent, I think, about 5 days straight from morning to night running around to different offices, gathering signatures, getting paperwork, going back to the veterinarian, going to this office, going to that office, coordinating with the Israeli government. You cannot bring a cat or a dog. You can't bring a pet into Israel unless you first send paperwork out to the agricultural authority in Israel, and you have to wait for them to look over the paperwork, and then they send you back an ishur. They send you back a confirmation that you're allowed to bring these animals into Israel. And in order to do that, you have to have all your paperwork right. So you have to get all your paperwork. I had to get all my paperwork right in Portugal, which meant running around from office to office. And as I mentioned, in Portugal, everything was really slowly. It's slow as molasses. It's actually one of the things I love about Portugal. Nobody's in a rush ever, but when you need to get documents signed and when you need to work with the bureaucracy, it's not so much fun anymore. So yeah, so I had to walk around from run around from office to office and get this paper signed and go to the veterinarian and then go to that office. It was crazy. Okay, and then I had to coordinate all that with the Israeli side, send out all the paperwork they needed, and then wait for the response, and then bring all the paperwork with me with the cats to the airport. Blah 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 blah. It was ridiculous. Our cat thinks he's the boss. Ari and Ben, I hate to break it to you, your cat is the boss. Okay, one thing any cat owner will know that they own us, we don't own them. Okay, we are just our only purpose in life is to give them food and to provide them a warm place to sit on when it's cold outside, like our laps. Other than that, they own us. We are the pets and they are the owners. They've got it all figured out. I don't know how they did it, but they got it. So many opened up in the process. I mean, it was one day where I didn't get to an office at a certain time, then I probably would have had to cancel the flight or delay the flight. And that would have been doing all the paperwork from the beginning. That would have been canceling the flight and then finding another flight that would allow 2 pets on it. I won't go into the whole thing, but there were just a whole bunch of miracles that just happened that allowed. I saw God taking my hand and leading me as if a father leading his child, from one place to another. I really saw this in this process over the past 2 months, and I hope it will continue. I hope it will help me figure out where I need to be and what I need to do in the land of Israel. So that's it. Let's end this part of the monologue, and we're going to take a break for 5 minutes. I'm going to plug in, as I usually need to do. I'm sorry about the internet. There's absolutely nothing that I can do about it. As I said, I'm in a temporary place. Once I get set up in a permanent place, then hopefully I'll have good internet. But right now, if it goes in and out, there's nothing I can do about it. So let me put on music, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll start talking about Leviticus chapter 18, which is leprosy. And yeah, and that's it. So see you guys in a couple of minutes. I'm going to put some music on.
Hashem, say, Shemayim Oretz, da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da, da da dee da da. Shemayim Oretz. Now listen to me, my most beautiful friends. Sometimes you want to send a message to someone you love so much, but you don't know where they are. But then there are always two. You and I know that your Hanovi lives forever, because he's every Eid's best friend. So it's Elio Hanovi, Elio teach me, be sending messages to all of Israel who still has not come to the Holy Land. And some of the Eden are so far away, not only physically, mentally, spiritually. And Yanovi, please bring them back. Elio Hanovi, Elio, teach me, Elio, Angelo, Elio, Angelo, Elio Hanovi, Elio, teach me, Elio, Angelo, Elio, Angelo. Friends, I want you to know we always worry about the Holy Land, because we don't know sometimes if we can trust our government so much. But the truth is, they have a king who lives forever. And I know he'll take care of every soldier, he'll take care of every Yid, and he'll take care of every inch in the Holy Land. David, Melech Israel. David, Melech Israel.
Okay. All right. We're back. Okay. So let's dig into Leviticus chapter 13. And let me share the screen. Again, please let me know if for whatever reason, whenever I do these studies, let me know two things. If you don't see the screen being shared when we're doing the actual study, in other words, let's say I'm talking about a certain verse and you don't see that verse or something related to it on the screen, let me know. I think what I'm going to do, by the way, is I'm going to stop my camera to hopefully reduce the bandwidth, because I know there's some internet problems here. Okay. Maybe I'll again. There we go. There we go. Okay. And if you see things starting to freeze up, okay, that often means that, again, Chrome is doing its Chrome special, which means that I'm about to get the revolving beach ball on my side. But if you see things already really horribly starting to freeze up, let me know, and then I'll just restart the computer right away rather than waiting for it to freeze up on my side. Okay. So I hope everybody sees the screen now. How's the sound and how is the video? Is everything okay from your side, from your guys' side? Hello? Somebody let me know. I see something frozen up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No, it's not frozen, but okay. Is the sound in the video okay, people? Hello? 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 Somebody give me a Y. Somebody give me a yes. Hello? Okay. All right, good. Okay, so we're in Leviticus chapter 13. Let's just review. Last week we spoke about Leviticus chapter 12, and that was a purification ritual after a woman gives birth. When a woman gives birth, she becomes ritually impure. She gets the cooties, and in order to get out of the cooties, she has to wait a certain amount of time. 2 weeks for 1 week if she gives birth to a son, 2 weeks if she gives birth to a daughter, or let's put it this way, if she gives birth to a son, it's 7 days, then followed by 7 days she's impure, and then 33 days she works towards purity. So for a total of 40 days, and if it's a daughter, then for 2 weeks, for 14 days, she's impure, and 66 days she works towards purity, and then at the end she brings a burnt offering and a sin offering. Why sin offering? We know that a sin offering is to make atonement for inadvertent transgressions, and the inadvertent transgression might be that she may have inadvertently during those 40 or those 80 days, while she was in a state of ritual impurity, while she was in a state of having the cooties, that perhaps she came in contact with something that she was not supposed to, meaning something that is dedicated to Yahweh, or even perhaps within the temple courtyard itself, although obviously I think that would be not inadvertent. So she brings a sin offering just in case, a recompense for inadvertent transgression offering just in case, and then she is back to a state of purity after those 40 days or after those 80 days. So that's so Leviticus 12, just to review again, Leviticus 11 was the laws of kashrut, the laws of clean and unclean animals. And really in Leviticus 11, we started in earnest to speak about this other second main and perhaps one could say the main topic of the book of Leviticus, which is this idea of ritual purity and ritual impurity. In Leviticus 11, we spoke about animals that were to be considered pure or to be considered clean and unclean, considered appropriate to eat and abominable or disgusting or inappropriate to eat for a human being, or for at least an Israelite in covenant with Yahweh, the creator of the universe. And then in chapter 12, then we spoke about not external things that were disgusting or not disgusting, but a person themselves. We spoke about it a little bit in chapter 11, but a person themselves, in this case, a woman who's just given birth, taking on a state of uncleanliness or cleanliness, state of penis, of having the cooties and not having the cooties, or getting out of having the cooties. Okay, exactly, the cooties. You got the cooties. Okay, and we're gonna always see. So a thing that I've heard a lot, and I think I mentioned it last week, is that, and I think Robert Alter mentioned that Milgram, who is kind of one of the leading experts on the book of Leviticus, on the entire sacrificial and clean/unclean system, says that, and I heard this way back in the day when I used to learn in rabbinical yeshivas, that uncleanliness is associated with somehow death. So they give the example of, for instance, a baby being born. I don't know how they twist it to make that associated with death, but they say that what's left behind, all this afterbirth, is kind of death, right? It's kind of it's supported life, and now it no longer supported life. So it went from a state of supporting life to not supporting life, and that's a process of life to death. And so a lot of people say that uncleanliness is somehow associated with going from a state of life to a state of death. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I think it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make logical sense. As I mentioned many times, I think that it's just a simple. I don't know if I'd use the word simple, but it's a matter of something that is beyond dirty, that is beyond even gross. It's so icky and so like bleh, that it's again the only the only analogy I can give is having the cooties. Like, you just want to stay as far away from it as possible, right? So think about the I gave the example of you're in the 5th grade, and I don't know, let's say the boy or the girl in the class that comes in one day, and she has a horrible case of some kind of a skin condition, right? You don't even want to be anywhere near that person, right? That person totally has the cooties. You're just going to avoid that person altogether, okay? And ironically speaking, in Leviticus chapter 13, we are going to speak about skin conditions, okay? And how they bring the cooties. So if you have certain skin conditions, then you get the cooties. You enter into a state of ritual impurity. I think Pfizer is a cooties vaccine. Oh, really? Okay, how about that? Like, because they developed it right after the COVID vaccine. I'm sure it's about as effective. So we are now going to speak about skin diseases. So imagine, sadly, or whatever the situation is, you're back in the 5th grade, and someone comes in and they have some horrible skin condition, eczema or whatever. They're something is wrong with their skin, right? Then all of the other kids are basically going to avoid them. They're going to want to stay away from them because they're afraid. First of all, they're just grossed out by it, and second of all, they're afraid maybe they're going to contract that skin condition. Well, that's pretty much exactly the situation we have here in Leviticus chapter 13. We are speaking about skin conditions which are so gross and disgusting that everyone else wants to stay away from you. In fact, commands that everyone else stays away from you, and how they're diagnosed, and then how the person who has them can ultimately get out of them. Okay, so this is often translated as leprosy. In Hebrew, the word is tzara'at. We'll see. It's often translated as leprosy, but it's not leprosy, as any good commentator will point out. It's various skin conditions. Okay, but if you hear me use the word leprosy, it's only because that has been the traditional translation of the word tzara'at into English. But it really is not leprosy. It has nothing to do with leprosy. It's various skin conditions we're talking about. Okay, visible skin conditions. Okay, so we're starting now in Leviticus chapter 13. Verse 1, and I'll bring it over to the Hebrew. Let's see here. Let's see the screen. I think you can. Come on. The internet is working a little bit strange. There we go. Leviticus 13:1. Okay, so again, here you see in the English they translate as leprosy. That is a bad translation. We're never going to use that translation. Okay, we'll both basically be using skin disease. Okay, so we start in Leviticus chapter 13, verse 1. وَيَدَبَرْ Yahweh el Moshe wa el Aharon lemor. So Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron to say, verse 2, Adam, and as many good commentators will point out, whenever it uses the word Adam, which means it literally means Adam or the man, it actually refers to men or women. It's a specific phrase or a specific word by the Torah when the Torah wants to point out that this applies to everybody, whether man, woman, child, old person, every human being. It's really any human being. So any human being, ki yihie be'or basaro, if it shall be on the skin of his flesh. And then we have three skin conditions that are mentioned: se'et, sapachat, or baheret. So se'et is usually translated as kind of a raised, a scale, I think they usually translate it as. Sapachat is usually translated as a scab, and baheret is usually translated as a bright spot. So any kind of scale, in other words, the skin is scaly, it's like sticking up, like scales on a fish. Sapachat, or it's scabby, or there's some kind of discoloration, some kind of bright discoloration on the skin. So these are the three things that are mentioned. And let's go to Robert Alt. We could go to Milgram, but we won't. He's probably going to quote Milgram. He often does for these various technical aspects of purity and impurity. So we're in Leviticus 13. So he translates it as an inflammation or a rash or a shiny spot. And there's a footnote here. Let's read that footnote. This is page 940. Okay. So Robert Alter says, on the skin of his body, the literal sense of the Hebrew is on the skin of his flesh. Though that sounds close to redundancy in English, the point, as Rashbam proposed, is probably to distinguish bare skin from the areas where the skin is covered by hair. I don't agree with that one, but okay. All right, so now we have these three things. Again, in Hebrew, it's sapachat or baheret. So se'et comes from the word laset, or the underlying root is nasa, nun sin aleph, which means to lift up. So it's something that's raised up. Something that's raised up. A lot of times they'll translate it as a scale. Okay, here he translates it as an inflammation. And we'll get to his commentary. All right, let's just read the commentary. Throughout this long section on dermatological disorders, the precise identification of disease and even symptom remains uncertain, and the approximations afforded by translation are chiefly guided by etymology. Inflammation, for example, represents the Hebrew se'et, which appears to exhibit the verbal root, which means to raise. Okay. Shiny spot is proposed for baheret, because you have bahar or bahir means shining. The verbal stem on which the noun is formed means to shine or to be bright. The fact of the matter is that the ancients perceived and described disease differently than does Western medicine, and some conditions that they understood to be a single malady may have actually been a variety of diseases, not all of them intrinsically related. Scholarly attempts to equate the various conditions reported here with specific dermatological disorders have only limited success. A certain lack of specificity in the translation of quasi-medical language of this section seems prudent and indeed appropriate. So I think he's actually making a very important point, which is that we're kind of talking about symptoms and not specific symptoms like you might find today. Oh, there's a, there is a red dots on the person's arm or something like that. It's kind of general symptoms, right? So again, if we go with his translations or his definitions of inflammations, what did he translate the second one as? Inflammations, rashes, or shiny spots, right? Then that covers a lot of different skin conditions, okay? And he's also making another very interesting point, which is in the Torah or in ancient time and really group things together the way we did today. To kind of group things together, what would the word be? Kind of by theme or by a certain word I'm looking for, which I can't think of right now. Basically, by general category or by general group. Okay, so for instance, if we look back in Leviticus 11, the word oath, which is often used for just birds, is actually all flying things, anything that flies in the air. It could be birds, it could be insects, it can be anything. So things are grouped by general category or grouped by general characteristics, or a lot of times, or let's say the things that swim in the sea, even though they're called fish in Leviticus 11. Are they called fish? I might be wrong about that. But anyway, the things that are grouped in the sea are all grouped as one. It doesn't matter whether they're fish. It doesn't matter whether they're mammals. The characteristics that are given, meaning having scales and having fins, apply to all creatures that live in the sea. Now I remember what it is. It's shoretz, but b'mayim, anything that swims in the sea. So that would include fish. That would include crustaceans. That would include and that would even include marine mammals. Okay, so the Torah generally doesn't try to pick things apart and categorize them. Let's say that later the Greeks or the Romans or we do today in modern science. It speaks about kind of general categories, and that's what it's doing here. So again, but going by Robert Alter's definition, so we have inflammations, or what were his three that he used? Inflammation, rash, or shiny spot. So basically, it's talking about a wide variety of annoying or for lack of a better word, disgusting skin conditions that that need to be taken care of, and where the person basically needs to be quarantined because it's so icky. It is such a contraction of the cooties that that we're afraid it's going to defile ultimately the temple and any of the holy items that may be dedicated to God. Okay, but we'll go with his definition for now. Okay, well, haya be'or basaro the nega sarat. Okay, and so it turns out. So if this is the case, if he has any of these general categories of skin conditions, then so it is that he has on the skin of his flesh, on the outer layer of his flesh, the nega sarat. He has the disease of tzara'at. And here we have the word in Hebrew tzara'at, and that again is usually translated as leprosy, but that is a very poor translation. This is not leprosy. Leprosy is a very specific disease, and this is not speaking about leprosy. A better translation I've seen is scale disease. Sometimes they'll translate it as, I think Robert translates it, and becomes the affliction of, so he translates it as skin blanch on the skin of his body. Okay, and let's see his commentary on that. So he actually avoids the priest shall see the affliction. So he actually avoids explaining why. Oh, he does. Okay, skin blanch. One second here. The affliction of skin blanch. Okay, so here he explains skin blanch. He says, although older English translations represent the Hebrew tzara'at, etymology uncertain, as leprosy, modern scholars are virtually unanimous in rejecting this identification. The symptoms do not correspond, and there is scant evidence that leprosy was present in the Near East before the Hellenistic period. No positive identification with a disease known to modern medicine has been made. In most biblical occurrences, tzara'at is associated with a ghastly white loss of pigmentation, and hence this translation adopts the coined term skin blanch. See the comment on Exodus 4:6. Loss of pigmentation in the hair and skin is prominent here as a determining symptom. So there's a loss of pigmentation in the hair and skin. He says that's the prominent symptom, and so he calls it skin blanch. I've seen it often translated as scale disease, and of course the traditional translation is leprosy. But as he just mentioned right now, as Robert Alter just mentioned right now, it's not leprosy. It has nothing to do with leprosy. Excuse me for 1 second. Let me just make one quick adjustment to the temperature here. Okay. So whatever he has, again, let's go just with Robert Alter's definition right now. So he's calling it skin blanch. So he points also to to Exodus 6. And I think to take a look at that just very briefly. Let's see if we can do that. Maybe even just in the English. So Exodus chapter 4, verse 6. So let's look for a second in the English. So this is right after the burning bush, okay? And Moses is now sent back to Egypt to free the people of Israel. And he asks, as Moses always is wont to do, because he really doesn't feel comfortable with the position he's given. So what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, Yahweh did not appear to you? And Yahweh said to him, what is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. Just make sure it's picking it up here. Yep. A staff, he replied. Yahweh said, throw it on the ground. And we can skip ahead a little bit. So that was the first sign. The second sign, then Yahweh said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, the skin was leprous. It had become as white as snow. And let's look at that in the Hebrew for a second. So that's Exodus 4:6. And if we look at that in the Hebrew, so Yahweh said to him, to Moses, so now place your hand into your breast, your breast pocket, under your cloak, basically. And he placed his hand onto his breast. And he brought it back out again. He pulled it back out again. And behold, his hand was, and these are the two words that are important here, mitzoraat keshaleh. They were leprous, or they had been afflicted with this disease of tzaraat. Again, usually translated traditionally as leprous, but we won't. They had been infected with tzaraat, and they were so infected with tzaraat that his hand looked as white as snow. Shaleg. Shaleg is snow. Okay, and that's going back to Robert Alter, why he chooses to call this disease not leprosy and not scale disease, as some of the commentaries do, but skin blanch. He points to this verse in Exodus 4:6, where Moses pulled out his hand and it was mitzoraat. It was infected with this disease of tzaraat. And again, the Hebrew for this disease is, as we see it right here in Leviticus 13, verse 2, is tzaraat, right? So here's tzaraat. In Exodus 4:6, it's mitzoraat. That means infected with tzaraat, okay? Tzaraatid, infected with tzaraat, and it was as white as snow. So Robert Alter uses that verse and others to say that this disease, tzaraat, whatever it is generally associated with some kind of whitening of the skin and of the hair on the skin, and that seems to be one of its defining characteristics. And so therefore he translates this disease as skin blanch, and I think that's a good translation. Okay, any comments, any questions? No. Okay, if not, then let's go on and close this out. Okay, so we're back in chapter 13, verse 2. So if he has these skin conditions, again, inflammation, again, using Robert Alter's translations, inflammation, or what was it? Oops. Inflammation, rash, or shiny spot. So if it has any of these afflictions, then he will be deemed to have been infected with tzaraat, with skin blanch. Uva el Aaron Kohen, and he's brought to Aaron the Kohen. Whenever we see Aaron the Kohen, that means the Kohen Gadol, the chief Kohen, the high priest, or el Achad mibanao, or to one of his sons. And whenever we see that phrase, that means one of the other Kohanim, the lay Kohanim, the ones that are not the chief, the high priest, but one of the other Kohanim, mibanav Kohanim. Okay, verse 3. Let's tackle this because it's a long verse. We'll go up to here. וראה כהן את הנגע באור הבשר, and the Kohen shall take, the priest shall take a look at the affliction, at the disease in the skin of his flesh. ושיער בנגע הפך לבן, ומראה הנגע עמוק מאור בשרו, נגע שרעתו. So basically what happens is, if someone has these skin conditions, then they bring them to the Kohen, and the Kohen are now supposed to be experts in determining whether this really is tzara'at, whether this really is skin blight or not. So the Kohen will take a look at it, and v'se'ar b'nega hafach lavan, and if the hair within the infected area has turned white, and the appearance of the affliction of the symptoms is deeper than his skin. In other words, it looks like it's almost like a tumor, right? It just penetrates past the upper layer of the skin. It's not like if you scratch yourself on the monkey bars or something like that. It's something that goes deeper below the skin. Okay. It is the affliction of skin blight. Okay, it shall be declared or shall be understood to be the affliction of skin blight. So you have these symptoms. You don't know. Do you really have tzara'at? Do you really have a skin blight? Do you really have leprosy / scale disease / skin blight? However you want to translate it. You take it to the Kohen. He is to take a look at it, and if he sees those two distinguishing signs, that the hair in the infected area is white, and that the infected area, the infection seems to go deeper than the skin itself, than just the outer layers of the skin, then it shall be deemed to be this skin blight. Okay, this disease known as skin blight. Kohen, what timeoto? And after the Kohen takes a look at him, or if the Kohen takes a look at him and determines that this is the case, what timeoto? Then he shall declare him unclean. He shall declare him to be kudied. He shall declare him to have the kudis. Literally, it says he shall impurify him, or he shall kudi him up, but that's not what it means. The context here is he shall declare him as unclean. He shall declare him as ritually impure, ritually unclean. He shall declare him as ritually dirty, as having the kudis. Okay, that's it. This person now officially has the kudis, and okay, and now let's see what happens. Okay, verse 4. Okay. So verse 4, and if there is a white spot, let's get a on that one. A white shiny spot, as Robert Alter translates that one. So if there's a white shiny spot on the skin, amok en mar'eha mina or, but it doesn't seem to go any deeper than the skin itself. Usi'ara lo hafach lavan, and the hair within the infection did not turn white. Wa'izgira kohen et hanega shiv'at yamim. Then the Kohen shall quarantine, shall put aside, basically shall quarantine the literally it says the affliction, but it means the affliction, since the affliction is attached to the person, so it really means the person is now to be quarantined for 7 days. In other words, the Kohen sees that something is going on there, but we're not sure what it is. Is it just, he scratched himself on the monkey bars, or burnt himself while making the chili qualis, or whatever, the chili quilas, or whatever they call that food, or whatever, or is something else going on here? So the Kohen is now gonna quarantine him for 7 days to make sure that if it does turn out, or if it turns out that it was tzara'at, if it turns out that it was this skin blight, that he is not spreading, as we'll see, this impurity spreads, okay, that he's not been spreading, that he won't spread it for 7 days, and then we'll take a look at it again, okay? All right, let me just check back here to see if any psoriasis, yeah, all of this kind of stuff. It's like psoriasis, it's God knows what it is. Again, nobody really knows what it is, okay? Verse 5, at the end of the seventh day, the Kohen will take a look at him. Right now, lo pasa anega ba'or. And if at that point literally it says hanega amad ba'inau, so the affliction or the disease or the symptoms remained as they had previously appeared. Right now, from appearance, from eye, which means the look, it has the same look, it has the same appearance. So if 7 days later it hasn't changed, lo pasah hanega ba'or, but it did not spread across the rest of his skin or spread across his skin. In other words, it didn't spread any further. Okay. Then he quarantines him for another 7 days. Okay, and we'll go over this in a second, but let's move on here. Verse 6, and the Kohen will take a look at him at the end of the second period of 7 days. And if at that point the infection has cleared up, literally has gotten dimmer, and it is not spread, and the infection is not spread across the skin, then he will declare him pure. He will declare him as not being kudid up. Okay. Okay, and then he'll declare him from being, the Kohen will declare him as being unkudid, or as not having kudis, and not being and this mispachat, which Robert Alter translates as, once again, that's the second one, as rash. Okay, it will be just declared as a regular rash. And all he has to do is wash his clothes, and because again the clothes are touching the skin, so whatever this affliction he had has now affected the clothes as well. So he washes his clothes, and then he isn't back to a state of purity. Okay. Yeah, let's go into verse 7. However, on the other hand, im pasat tifseh mispachat ba'or. Just one thing here. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. So if, on the other hand, so remember, he goes with these symptoms and he's quarantined for a period of up to 2 weeks. He's quarantined for a period of 1 week and then checked again. Okay. If it's disappeared, off you go. Wash your clothes, and the whole incident is done. It just turned out that it was a once again, how are we translating mispachat? A rash. Okay, which is a regular rash. And for another 7 days, checked at the end of the 7 days again, and it turns out that it is disappeared. Then it was just a rash. Go wash your clothes. You're back to normal. Okay, but verse 7, if during any of these 2 7-day periods, is the implication for im pashat tifsheh hamispachat ba'or achare haroto el kohen lita'arato v'nira shenit el kohen. Okay. No, I'm sorry. This is something slightly different. So let's say now the Kohen has already declared him pure after either the first period or the second period. Okay. And then it reappears. So if this disease, after the Kohen is declared that, given the all clear, everything's okay, you're back to normal. But afterwards, if it spreads again, right? Let's say now there's a break, it breaks out afterwards on the skin. We appear for the Kohen has to check him out. Okay, let's examine it again. But if at that point it takes a look at him and sees that this rash is spread across the skin, is spread out, with Kohen, then the Kohen shall declare him as being kudid up, as having the kudis, and it turns out that it was indeed tzaraat. It was indeed this skin blight, this leprosy, scale disease, however you want to translate it. We're going with the skin blight. Okay, So that's the idea. So basically, this kind of covers everything. It's very thorough. It's actually very exact, right? You have symptoms which could be suspected to be tzara'at, which could be suspected to be this skin blight. You go to the Kohen. He takes a look. If he sees that, the skin and the hair, that the hair in the infected area is white, has turned white, and that infection looks like it's going deeper than the skin, then the person is, well, let's say he goes there and it's not the case. Then that's it. He's declared good to go. Okay, he washes his clothes and he's good to go. Maybe not the first time he comes, but certainly the second and third time comes. Okay, but at any rate, if it turns out that he does see that the hair is white and that the infection looks like it's going deeper than the skin, then he's quarantined for 7 days. He checked at the end of 7 days if it's gone back to normal, pretty much. If it's clearing up, lets him go. He washes his clothes, goes off on his merry way. If not, then he doesn't declare it yet as tzara'at. He quarantines him for another 7 days. This is a second period of 7 days. Checks at the end of the 7 days. If it's cleared up, off he goes. If not, at this point, it's stuck around for so much that now it's declared to be tzara'at. At this point, it's known that it is tzara'at. Okay. Second. I'm sorry, I said that a little bit wrong. At any rate, at any given point in that period, if it shows the actual symptoms of tzara'at, then he's declared to have tzara'at. If not, he's quarantined for a period of up to 2 weeks, and then he's sent home. However, even if afterwards, now it breaks out again, then he's brought back. The Kohen takes a look at it, and at that point, it's declared to be tzara'at. Okay, so that's the idea. All right. Okay, so just to put things in perspective here, so this was talking about mispachat. So remember, there were 3 sets of symptoms. There was 8, Robert Alter is translating as inflammation, a rash, or shining spots. Okay, so this first situation here, basically down to the end of Raven, is speaking about the second one, is speaking about this sapachat, okay, a rash. Okay, and the Kohen is trying to determine, once again, is it tzara'at? Is it this skin blight, this special disease, or is it just a regular rash that just clears up? Okay, listen, maybe we've all had this situation in our own lives. Maybe we have something on our skin, right, or some kind of symptom, and we wonder. Let's say something on our skin. We wonder, is this just some kind of wound that I got somewhere, or some kind of inflammation, or is something else going on? Is it, God forbid, cancerous? Is it skin cancer? Is it a tumor on the skin that needs to be taken care of? It's the same idea here, right? The Kohen is trying to determine, is it just a regular rash or is something else going on? Okay, maybe I'm just throwing this idea out here, but maybe tzara'at is actually skin cancer. I don't know. Just an idea that I thought of right now. We can keep an eye on it as we go through the chapter and see if that kind of holds up. Okay. At any rate, down through chapter 7, it's speaking about this second situation, which is a rash. Okay. Let's go here in chapter 8. I'm sorry, up to the end of verse 8. Let's go now in verse 9. If a person lives, if skin blight, this disease of skin blight, should be upon a person, that he's brought to the Kohen, but that's not what it means. The context here is, once again, if it's suspected that this person may have skin blight. So this sentence right here is an excellent illustration of the way language in the Torah works, the way biblical Hebrew works, and how different it is from modern English. Okay, so I'm going to read it literally. ra'at ki ti'eh ba'adam, if the disease of skin blight should be upon a man, Adam again means a man or a woman, on any human being, uva Kohen, then he's brought to the Kohen. That's literally what it says. But the fact of the matter is that this verb here, ti'eh, shall be, in the future, which is often as as many Hebrew grammar experts will point out, the future is not really the future tense. There really is no future in past tense in biblical Hebrew. There's one perfect and the perfect. And the imperfect implies something that may happen, could happen, we might want to happen, we pray might happen, we entreat God that it should happen. So really a better translation here would be neged tzarat kiti ebadam. So if the disease of, if the affliction, if the disease of tzaraat, if the disease of skin blight, kiti'eh, might be upon a human being or suspected of being upon a human being. Okay. So again, although this is in its most basic form would mean shall be upon, the future tense in Hebrew, which is not really called the future tense, it's really called the imperfect mood, or the imperfect the imperfect, is it the mood? No, it's not mood. I forgot the technical term, but the imperfect. So implies might be, could be, should be, I hope will be, I hope will not be, maybe. So in this case, it would be best translated as suspected of being upon a person. So neged tzarat kiti eba adam. So if the affliction, if the disease of tzarat is suspected of being upon, upon a human being, uva el kohen, then he's brought to the kohen. So here we have, again, just like up here, we had symptoms that are appearing. He's brought to the kohen and checked out, but the symptoms specifically here were the mispachat, were that second of the three types of symptoms, which we're translating as a rash. So everything from pretty much from here to here. Where is it? From here to here is dealing with a rash that is suspected that perhaps it is this disease of tzaraat. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Ra'a Kohen. So now we're talking about the first one. Okay, so the Torah now is going back. Remember, the three sets of symptoms are se'et, or sapachat, or baheret, which Robert Alter is translating as inflammation, or rash, or shiny spot. Okay, so now we're going back to why did the Torah first deal with the second one, with a rash? I'm not really sure. I think my speculation would be that's probably the main one. Maybe that's the one that happened the most often, or that's the most prominent one, or maybe that's the one that's most easy to diagnose. The Torah chooses the order of things for very simple, straightforward, or very straightforward reasons such as that. That would be my guess. So now it's going to the second one. So that, and the second, I'm sorry, to the first one. So the second one is rash, took us down to the end of verse 8. Now we're going back to this first set of symptoms, or this first type of symptoms, which is se'et, which Robert Alter is calling it inflammation. Okay. And now here we see in verse 10 that if the Kohen takes a look at it and there is this inflammation, a white inflammation, ba'or, on the skin, we have chas or e of chaser lavan. Okay, and if chaser lavan, and the hair in that infected area has turned white. Michiat basar chai baset, and there's no. Let's get a translation on that one. It's a bit difficult to translate. That's verse 10. Verse 10. Okay, so here, verse 10 is Robert Alter translation. If the priest sees and look, there is a white inflammation in the skin, in which the hairs turn white, and there is exposed flesh in the inflammation. That's how he translates that. Michiat basar chai beseit. Okay. So it's basically like an abscess, I guess, is what it's speaking about, right? Michiat basar chai beseit literally means if there is a living growth of flesh within the inflammation. So basically, I guess we're talking about like 1 second here. I guess we're talking about like the flesh from underneath the skin is now protruding towards the surface, right? Basically, I guess what you would call an abscess. I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on television, so I don't know the technical term. But I think we're talking about what generally would be called an abscess. Okay, in other words, like the skin is now there's now flesh, like kind of poking out from under the skin. And the skin has broken apart. Okay, so if that's the case, so tzara'at noshenet hi ba'or b'saro v'tim'o hakohen. This is an old tzara'at in the skin of his flesh, and the Kohen shall declare him as having the cooties. All right, let's get a little translation on that one. It was a bit difficult to pick apart. Okay. Robert Alter translates as chronic skin blanch in the skin of his body, and the priest shall declare him unclean. And he has a comment on that. That's verse 11. And let's go back actually and read some of the previous comments. So when the priest sees it, he shall declare him unclean. The examining priest determines the diagnosis, and perhaps one should think of him as performing at least one function of a physician. But, oh God, why is this so slow? But these regulations for skin conditions reflect an ambiguous conception of disease that wavers between pathology and ritual impurity. The general sense of tameh, unclean. Oops, too far. Thus, the quarantining of the afflicted person might involve the fear of contagion in the medical sense, or might be chiefly an avoidance of ritual contamination. And one suspects that the two were blurred in the Israelite imagination. Jacob Milgram proposes that the wasting of the flesh involved in tzara'at is associated with death. I mentioned that Milgram is big into this idea, right? And that these laws are an expression of the impulse of Leviticus to separate all death-like phenomena from the living. And I disagree with that, but that's one of Milgram's big things, okay? All right, verse 11. Chronic skin blanch, it's the first one right now. The literal sense of the Hebrew's old skin blanch with the implication of its persistence, hence chronic. Okay, that's a good translation, I think. Okay. So since it's chronic skin disease, lo yaskireno ki tamehu. So the Kohen doesn't even. The Kohen doesn't even go through the quarantine process. Doesn't even waste time quarantining him. It's immediately declared. He's immediately declared as having the cooties. Okay. So once again, he has this inflammation, and the Kohen sees that that it's a white, bright inflammation in the skin. The skin, the hair has turned white, and that flesh is poking through the skin. The flesh underneath is somehow poking through the skin, an abscess. Then he's immediately declared as having tzara'at. He's immediately declared as having the cooties. Okay, verse 12. Wa'im paroach tifrach tzara'at bo'or wakista tzara'at ekol or hanega merosho ad regalau l'chol mar'eh einei hakohen. So if this skin blight disease has blossomed, has spread out and covered, and the skin blight is covered, kol or hanega, and has covered all of the skin of with the disease, I could say, from his head to his toes to his feet. Wherever the Kohen looks, wherever the Kohen examines him. Verse 13. וראה הכהן והנה כיסתה הצרת את כל בשרו וטיהר את הנגע כולו הפך לבן טהור הוא. Okay, let me just try to get this in my head. כל אור הנגע מראשו ועד רגלו לכל מראה עיני הכהן וראה הכהן נקסתה צרת את כל בשרו וטיהר את הנגע כולו הפך לבן טהור הוא. Okay, well, I'm just going to read what it says and then we'll try to get some commentary. So basically, I'm going to paraphrase actually. So if the tzarat, if the skin blight covers entire body from head to toe, then and the entire body is covered with this affliction, then he's declared pure. Okay, let's try to figure out why. All right, first let's get a translation here. Okay, verse 12. And if the skin blanch, in fact, erupts in the skin blanch covers all the skin of the person with the affliction from head to toe, wherever the priest's eyes can see. The priest shall see and look. If the skin blanch has covered his whole body, he shall declare the affliction clean. It is turned white, it is clean. All right, what's going on there? Let's get a little commentary. The person with the affliction, the Hebrew, as repeatedly elsewhere in this passage, simply says the affliction, but this is an obvious ellipsis, or some prefer to call it a metonymy. Yes. That is correct. We've mentioned this in a couple of other contexts. I won't get into that right now. From head to toe, the literal Hebrew idiom is from his head to his feet. Okay, it is turned white, it is clean. The referent of the second clause might be either the affliction or the person, in which case it should be translated as he is clean. The criterion for being cured is a little confusing because white has been associated with the disease. Compare the previous clause, the skin blanch has covered the whole body. Here, however, as Baruch Levine explains, the whiteness is indication of fresh skin that has grown instead of exposed flesh, as in the next verse. Okay, so it does seem a little bit strange, but let's go ahead. Okay, and then we'll try to go back and try to sum up exactly what's going on here. Okay, verse 14 will be Bayoma he raot bo basar hayitma. And if on the day he examines him, he sees this living flesh, in other words, these abscesses, then he's declared as booties. Okay. Verse 15. And the Kohen shall examine these abscesses, this flesh poking through the skin, and shall declare him as having the cooties, as being unclean. These abscesses, this living flesh, literally is what it means, is unclean, is cootied, and this is now he's now declared as having tzarat. He's now declaring as having this disease of tzarat, of skin blight. Oki yeshuva basar chai u'nehafach le'lavan u'ba el kohen, and if these abscesses shall go away and shall turn back to being just white, ubal el kohen, then he comes to the kohen, and the kohen will take a look at it, and if indeed this affliction is then the kohen shall declare him as being clean, as being uncootied, as the nega. Okay, he is now declared as clean. Okay, so what is going on here? It seems a little bit confusing because of some of the language, but let me try to sum up and make some sense of it here. Okay, so first of all, where are we? So first of all, again, let's point out that these first verses from basically from here, verse 3 to verse 8, to the end of verse 8, are speaking about this second set of symptoms, which we said were a rash. Okay, now from verse 9 through verse 17, we're talking about this first set, which Robert Alter is translating as an inflammation. So from here to here, we're talking about we're speaking about rashes. From here down to here, we're speaking about rashes on the skin, which could be or could not be tzara'at. And from here to here, we're speaking about inflammations. Okay, so let me just read through this once again, just for myself, and then I'll try to sum up, and then we'll move on to the next verses. הכהן והנה שאת לבנה בעור, והיא הפכה שיער לבן, ומחיית בשר חי בשאת וצרת שבט. שיער לבן וצרת נושנת היא בעור, בשרו וטבעו הכהן לא יסכנו טמאו, ואם פרוח תפרח הצרעת בעור, כיסתה צרעת כל אור הנגע מראשו ועד רגליו לכל מראה עיני הכהן וראה הכהן והנה כיסתה צרעת את כל בשרו ותפאר את הנגע כולו הפך לבן טהור הוא ויום okay. There's a little bit of confusing language here. I don't want to get bogged down in it. So I think we're just going to move ahead. I just want to read it. Just give me 1 second. I just want to read it one more time for myself. Okay? הכהן והנה שאת לבנה בעור והיא הפכה שיער לבן בשאת נושנת היא בעור בשרו וטמאו הכהן לא יסכננו כי טמא הוא ואם פרח תפרח הצרת בעור וכיסתה הצרת את כל אור הנגע מראשו ועד רגליו לכל מראה עיני הכהן וראה הכהן הנה כיסתה צרעת את כל בשרו וטיהר את הנגע כולו הפך לבן טהור הוא וביום הראות בו בשר החי יטמא וראה כהן את הבשר החי וטמאו הבשר החי וטמא הוא צרעת הוא או כי ישוב הבשר החי ונהפך ללבן ובא אל הכהן וראה הכהן והנה נהפך נגע הכהן את טהור הוא. One more time. I think I got it. I want to say, but just give me one more here. הכהן והנה שאת לבנה שאת לבן נושנת היא בעור בשרו טמאו הכהן לא יסכננו כי טמאו ואם פרח תפרח הצרעת בעור וכיסתה הצרעת כל אור הנגע מראשו ועד הרגל וכל מראה עינו הכהן והנה כיסתה הצרעת את כל בשרו וטיהר את הנגע כולו הפך לבן טהור הוא ויום הראות בו בשר חי יטמא וראה. Okay, I think I see what's going on here. And I don't know if Robert Alter explained it correctly. I think what's going on here, because the language is a little bit confusing, but I'm going to sum it up this way. Okay, so this is, as Robert Alter did point out, this is, he calls it, or the Torah calls it Tzara'at Noshenet, old Tzara'at. And Robert Alter translates it as chronic Tzara'at. But I think what it really is it's this person had this disease Tzara'at before, okay? And it's left them somehow with let me see one more time. It's going to be maybe it's left them with some kind of remnant. His skin looks different. Maybe the skin is a little bit whiter, or maybe the skin, I don't know. There's some indication that that was left over from this person having had the disease of Tzara'at before. Okay, so this is a case of someone who previously had Tzara'at. I think I'm speculating a little bit here, but I think these verses speaking about a case of someone who previously had Tzara'at, who previously had this disease of skin blight, and it's changed. Let's just say it's changed the color of his skin, okay, to yellow. I'm just going to make it up, okay. And now his skin is yellow, so, and it's left over. That's the permanent symptoms. Those are the permanent results of him having Tzara'at before. And now on this yellow skin, now he starts developing, and now he starts developing white hairs, and he's getting abscesses. Okay, so so this is not someone with normal skin. This is someone whose skin has already been permanently changed or damaged by previously having Tzara'at, and now we have these. Now it seems to be getting worse. It seems to be coming back. It's like herpes or something like that, right? Don't they say that many people have herpes, and if you have herpes every so often, let's say you have herpes simplex, I think it is. Every so often you're going to get lesions, or you're going to get canker sores around your lips and in your mouth, right? So when they're not there, then everything is kind of normal, right? But maybe a doctor could determine, oh, this person has, I'm just speculating here or making it up, but maybe the doctor can determine, oh, this person has herpes. I can see this permanent discoloration around his mouth and lips. And every so often there's a flare-up of this herpes, okay? and then you get the canker sores in your lips and around your mouth. So I think what's going on is the same kind of thing here, okay? That this person previously has had flare-ups of tzara'at, of this disease called tzara'at, and so the skin has been permanently affected, and every so often he has these flare-ups. And how do the flare-ups manifest themselves? They manifest themselves. So skin color has already changed. Again, a little bit of speculation here, but I'm just trying to make the point. Something is indicating that his flesh has had this tzara'at before. Let's say skin is now yellower. We'll just go with yellow, okay? And now every so often he's having flare-ups. And what are these flare-ups? They're the hair on his body turns white, on the potentially inflamed areas turns white, and there are abscesses. Okay, so if he's previously had tzara'at and now he's getting white hair and abscesses, then immediately this is determined to be a flare-up of this chronic tzara'at, and he's declared as having the cooties. Right, it's back. He's having a flare-up, just like someone who has had in the past herpes simplex, the second he gets canker sores in his mouth, the person immediately knows this is a flare-up of the herpes simplex. Okay. However, okay, so he doesn't even quarantine him at that point. If he has this white hair and these abscesses, he's immediately declared as having tzara'at, as having a flare-up of his chronic tzara'at, and he's declared impure. He's declared as having the cooties. Okay. However, but if this tzara'at, this chronic tzara'at, let's say this yellow skin, now spreads out and covers all of his body from his head to his toes, okay, everywhere the Kohen examines, then yes, he has this skin discoloration, but there's no white hair and there's no abscesses, okay, then he's declared pure. Okay, he's declared as not having the cooties, okay, because wait 1 second. Okay, so if this chronic skin condition now covers his whole body, but he doesn't have any of this white hair, these abscesses, then yes, it is this condition, this permanent condition that he has, but it's not a flare-up. Tahoru, and he's declared as not having the cooties. Okay. But let's say the Kohen takes a look at him and says, okay, you're good to go right now. This is just your, the chronic skin condition manifesting itself, but it's not a flare-up. Okay. However, if he now leaves the Kohen and afterwards he has these abscesses, then immediately he knows what it is. Okay, even if the Kohen's not seeing him, he knows what it is. It's a flare-up, and he's declared impure, yitma. Okay, and then he goes back to the Kohen and shows it to the Kohen. And if the Kohen sees once again that that he has abscesses, flesh poking through the skin, raw flesh poking through the skin, then the Kohen declares, okay, or if he has it and it goes away again, and if it has it and it goes away again, then that means he's back to his regular chronic condition, but he's not having a flare-up, then he's declared pure. So to make a long story short, I think what's going on here in verses 9 through 17 is we're talking about someone who has had a breakout of tzara'at in the past. It has caused some kind of permanent change to his skin, which maybe is either always there or is maybe recurring. And yes, it can lead to a flare-up, but the determining factor as to whether it's actually considered a flare-up or not is there white hair and are there abscesses. If the color of his skin just changes, then that's maybe a potential flare-up, but it's not to the point where he has the cooties again, right? It never gets to the point where he has the cooties again, and he's still considered. However, if there are abscesses and white hair at any time when the Kohen sees him, or even after the Kohen sees him, then it's a flare-up of his chronic of his chronic tzara'at, and he's declared impure. Or if he has that flare up and it goes away, then he's declared pure again. Okay, so that is what we're talking about here. It seems this chronic recurrence of tzara'at, of skin disease. Okay, any questions? Any comments? It's complicated, but again, I think it really makes a lot of sense. I really think it makes a lot of sense. Anybody? Can you guys hear me okay? Can you guys hear and see okay? Is everything clear? Hello? Can I get a yes from somebody? Somebody, let me know you're alive. Let me know you're alive. Hello? Anybody? Hello? Somebody, please give me a yes. Somebody. Well, I assume we're broadcasting, but nobody's giving me a yes. So let me just see something here. Let me just make sure. One second. Hello. Okay, I got to do the hard way. I guess we're good. Okay. One second. I think we're okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. All right. So that's that. And I think actually, I think we actually may stop here for today, believe it or not, because I think I want to go look at the sunset. The sun is about to set, and I think I want to go take a look at this. See how long we've been going with this for about 2 hours, a little bit. Okay, you guys hear me? Okay. A little bit shorter than usual. I wanted to go on to this other topic, which was Kavod Yahweh, which we started last week. So I think this is very technical. I think we're going to stop here for now. Okay, and I think we'll pick this up next week. I think we're going to pick this up next week. That's what I think. Maybe we'll do one more paragraph. Nah, it's kind of technical. 1 second. Give us a key. It's technical and it's getting late here, and I really kind of want to go see the sunset. So my intuition, which I'm trying to follow these days, is telling me now is the time to stop. So I think that's it. I think we're going to cut the study a little bit short. Maybe next week, now because I'm on a different time zone, I'm on Israel time zone. Maybe we'll actually start the studies a little bit earlier. The sun actually sets a little bit earlier here. The sun sets here at around 7:45. In Portugal, the sun sets at around 8:45. So it's like a whole hour later. And I do like to see the sunset, especially over the old city here. So I think we're going to stop here, believe it or not. Okay. And it's been very technical, but I hope clear. I hope clear, because one of the things I really want, as I say almost every week now, one of the things I really want to point out is that these systems, the sacrificial system and the Tahara Tum'ah system, the purity impurity system, are very logical and they're very well thought out. They really fit together, as a beautiful whole when understood correctly. Okay, so I think we'll pick it up here. I'll just make a note for myself that we got down to verse 17. Okay, and next week we'll pick it up in Leviticus chapter 13, verse 18. And I think I'm going to end it here. what I think I'm going to do. That's what I'm feeling. Okay. So let me throw it open. Any final questions, any final comments before we stop the study? You're welcome, Mauricio. Okay. Well, then we're going to end here. And I will wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavua Tov, depending on where you are in the world. And Be'ezrat Yahweh, we will see you again next week, where we will start in Leviticus chapter 13, verse 18. Okay? And we'll continue with this topic of tzarat, of skin blight, as Robert Alter translates it as, or as it's often translated as scale disease or leprosy. Okay? All right, then. We'll go out with a quick song, and then we will pick it up next week. So Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov. Thank you all for joining me. This has been Hakham Melech Ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im. And we will see you again, Be'ezrat Yahweh, next week. Get some music going here. No, we have a prime minister already, Yarden. Not a very good one. Hello? Oh, Rich. It's you. Wait 1 second.